Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey everybody, I am so excited to introduce my guest today, Chris Schembra. Chris is the best-selling author of Gratitude and Pasta, The Secret Sauce for Human Connection, chronicling his adventures as one of the most sought-after dinner hosts in the world. Forbes ranked his book as the number 2 book of 2020 to create human connection. USA Today calls him the Gratitude Guru, and Inc. magazine has named him one of their icons and innovators. He is the founder and chief question asker of 747, an advisory firm which helps companies give the gift, G-I-F-T, of community and belonging to their VIP clients and partners. Having used their signature pasta sauce to spark over 400,000 relationships around the dinner table, their core hypothesis is that giving gratitude to others is the key to fulfillment and ultimately good for business. 747's entire business model revolves around asking a single question. If you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, who would that be? Using this question, they produce 3-hour-long gratitude interventions, virtual dinners, navigating their attendees to enhanced well-being, accessing positive autobiographical memories, and developing pro-social relationships. These results have led to 747's clients earning tens of millions in net new revenue around the dinner table. Aside from 747, Chris is a contributing producer at O. Henry Productions, which both invest in and produce commercial theater. He's led social campaigns with over 1 million participants, lowering the suicide rate among veterans with PTSD, and the projects Chris has been involved in have been awarded 14 Tony Awards, 7 Emmys, and a Grammy. He's been selected number 5 on the 10 motivational speakers that will rock your next event by Marketing Insider Group. He was named Entrepreneur of the Year by Smart Hustle magazine and People of 2017 by Clientele Luxury magazine. Recently, he was honored alongside Michael Phelps, Chris Evans, Kid Cudi, and several other 6 successful men smashing the mental health stigma by Good Men Project. His direct work has been talked about in Forbes, Inc., Entrepreneur, USA Today, the New York Times, Variety Magazine, Yahoo Finance, MSN.com, Fox News Channel, Psychology Today, Huffington Post, Bravo TV, Newsmax TV, Thrive Global, Good Morning New York, and many more. Please join me in welcoming Chris Schembra. Hey, Chris.
Thanks for having me today.
Well, it's a genuine pleasure. And as somebody who has attended one of your dinners, that introduction, while it says so much, it only says part of what the experience is of being a part of one of your dinners and the energy that you bring to it and the skill and the ambiance that you create and what you generate. That question, if you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to, who would that be? I have actually stolen that question and I've used it in some of the groups I work with now. I hope that's okay with you, because that question really does touch people at a deep place. It's really effective. But here we are. We're here to talk about you. So Work from the Inside Out, we talk about people's lives. We talk about the paths they have been on. And clearly you've done a lot with your life. And I'm curious, where did it all begin, Chris? Tell us where you started. What did you dream about as a kid, or what were the earlier years like?
Oh man, the earlier years. I grew up on Hilton Head Island, South Carolina, in a two-parent household, only child with a dog. Um, from a young age, I always had a lot to say. Um, I always had a lot of thoughts. I always had a lot of things I wanted to do. And somewhere along the line that, that scared some of the people around me. And so kind of the first thing that happened in my life, big thing that happened in my life, was I was put on medication at the age of 5.
Wow.
I had so much to say. I had so much I wanted to do that scared a lot of the people around me. And they didn't know what to call it. They didn't know what it looked like. So they called it ADHD.
Aha.
And at that time, now a dear friend of ours, Ned Hallowell, was coming out with a book called Driven to Distraction.
Yeah.
And a bunch of the parents and a lot of the doctors said, hey, I think this is what the kid has. So they gave me some horse tranquilizers.
Oy.
And effectively, shook up the system at the age of 5. So
Wow.
I actually don't remember most of my childhood. I had a very good support system around me, whether it was my parents and their generosity of spirit and investment into the community. They were always engaged in philanthropic activities. They were always trying to bring people over to the home and connect them around shared passions and so many beautiful things. I had great mentors at a young age, and we believe now that if you have good mentors early on in your childhood, you will return that reciprocity and pay that forward to society later on in your career. And that link is certainly gratitude, as we now know. So it was a good thing, but I certainly had a lot to say and a lot of free thoughts that I wished to express that I wasn't allowed to. So I moved away from Hilton Head Island when I graduated high school and moved off to college. And in college, I sought to find my new identity. I sought to find my voice. I involved myself in certain philanthropic activities and took some leadership positions in certain civic organizations. But at the same time, I was a drug abuser and an alcoholic. And that drove me to jail a bunch of times, and fights with cops and warrants out for my arrest, and crashing my cars and injuring myself and others. So the college kicked me out.
Oh, wow.
And so my support system said I should go off to rehab. So I went off to rehab for a long time, failed every rehab, didn't like when people put rules or put guidelines for my existence that had been so common in my childhood. And so, flunked out of all the rehabs, moved back to Hilton Head Island, and fell back in love with nature. And for the first time in my life, I was medicine free.
Wow.
I was able to tell stories of the Low Country. And I was able to work as not only a kayak tour guide or a stand-up paddleboard instructor, but a boat captain, helping tourists to our island experience the beauty of the Low Country. I could ask them.
Chris, so you tell this story almost as if some of it's a fond memory, and yet it sounds like there's clearly parts of it where I'm guessing maybe you were angry somewhere along the way. That this voice that you had as a child, or even you went off to college and you were expressing yourself, but there was some anger coming out somewhere along the way. And I'm not trying to sound like a therapist or anything, but clearly you were voicing some things and behaviors were coming out. You were doing drugs, you were doing alcohol, you went in and out of rehab, which is not unusual. A lot of people who do rehab usually do it more than once.
Mhm.
What was the sort of time span between the times you were in and out of rehab and the time you returned to Hilton Head and found nature and you were drug free? I mean, it.
That was the span of about 2.5 years.
Oh, okay. That doesn't sound like a long time for all of that happening.
Yeah, it's interesting. I can speak fondly on those memories because I've cultivated a practice of gratitude.
Okay.
And gratitude to us is all about looking into the past and accessing those autobiographical memories, positive or negative.
Yeah.
And if they're positive, you bring them to the forefront and tell positive stories. If they're negative, you bring them to the forefront and you have the opportunity to work on your relationship with that negative emotion.
Yeah. Okay.
And so I'm able to tell those stories quite fondly because I'm proud to say they shaped who I am.
Yeah.
If I didn't go through that turmoil at a young age, I wouldn't have the depth of life and the depth of character and the depth of understanding of who I am and am not at a young age that I do. And
Yeah.
for that, I'm privileged.
Yeah. Yeah. I can appreciate that. So you went back to Hilton Head. You must have been still in your early 20s at that point.
So yeah, I was 20 when I moved back to Hilton Head. I was 21 when I moved back to Hilton Head, and
That was a lot of living before that already.
yeah, I've had I'm an old 32 right now.
Wow.
I'm an old 32.
Wow. Okay.
But no, so 21, I moved back to Hilton Head and fell back in love with nature. And I got a job leading kayak tours at the time, leading kayak tours with a company called Outside Hilton Head.
Yeah.
You'd gather 24 to 42 people at a time, put them all in kayaks, learn all their names, tell some stories of the low country, learn about where they're from, and get paid to do it.
Yeah.
And that was amazing.
Yeah.
So that was like the spring of 2009, the summer of 2009. By that point, I just turned 22. And I said, this is great, but I want to go have a new adventure. So I moved down to live on a glacier at the southern tip of South America in Patagonia. I lived on a glacier in Patagonia for a long time, studying with the National Outdoor Leadership School.
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they were exposing us to life and death situations and learning leadership and learning the history of Chile and all these great things. So that took me through to early 2010.
Wow.
Of which I moved back to Hilton Head and got my captain's license to now bring out big groups on big boats instead of sweltering in the Carolina heat in a kayak. So graduated to boats. And by the time I got back to South Carolina, my mom and her best friend, Debbie, and a bunch of local group people here, they bought a farm. They bought an equestrian facility on right next to Hilton Head Island and decided to open up an a female adolescent treatment facility that consisted of 4 things: equine therapy, domestic therapy, 12-step therapy, and adventure therapy. So by the time I got back to become a boat captain, I also got to run the adventure therapy part of that treatment facility, bringing young girls out into the wilderness and, learning about life, that way. So 2010, did all that and had a good time. And by the time that I was still being a boat captain, and by the time the summer had rolled around, and by the time everything was kind of happening, then all my friends started graduating from college.
Right.
moving back down to Hilton Head Island. So I quit the boating, and I quit the adventure therapizing, and I opened up a marketing company with two of my best friends. It was called ARC Innovations LLC. ARC stand for Andrew, Randy, Chris. It also stood for acquiring the right connections. And so we started marketing some local products. We started bringing some national products into the local market, and, I don't know, trying all those things. We were still living at home with our parents. So all the cash that we were making was going straight to our savings or to invest in some multi-level marketing Ponzi scheme, of which I got hit a couple times by.
I think we've all been there.
Yeah. So, did all that and had a really good time with these guys.
So I'm curious, Chris. So you were spending so much time of that time, in, I'll say in recovery, in nature. And then your friends come back from college and you decide you're going to become a businessman, basically.
Yeah.
What turned that switch for you?
That's a great question. I think I'm a constant life learner.
Yeah.
I think that I always want to build and create and do something. So obviously working for outside Hilton Head was the time of my life, but working for others was probably only going to go so far.
I see. So there were a couple things going on. There was something new.
An opportunity to co-create something, an opportunity to learn new skills.
But also to take more ownership.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So great question.
Yeah. So then ARC Innovations was born.
ARC Innovations was born. We got all the fancy headshots. We made the business plan. We convinced a few either local business owners or national business owners to let us market their products on a local level. And somehow one of our great products was we had this guy ship us about 12 street legal electric low speed vehicles, and so about $200,000 worth of vehicles he shipped us, and we tried to rent them out to the local tourists, and it worked. And but we used to have this fleet. We used to live at my buddy's grandparents' house. They had this very, very large, like 18,000 square foot home.
Wow.
That they never used. And so all of us buddies, we each had our own bedroom. There were like 8 bedrooms or whatever. So we all had our own bedrooms. So we lived there and we worked out of there, and we had these cars, these lightning bugs. And so we got to go out and, hustle them and just drive them around, and we'd rent them on the spot. If someone liked what we were doing, we'd literally stop and say, "Hey, you want this for the week? Give us the money."
That was the beginning of something.
It was the beginning of knowing that you shouldn't do business with your friends. No, it was the beginning of me understanding that I have the right mind for business. By that point in my life, I only thought I had the mind to, run kayak tours and be a boat captain. And I thought that's what I was going to do for the rest of my life. And then I got my taste of business,
right?
And I got good at it. And then at one point in May of 2011, someone who was like a grandmother figure to me in life, who's unfortunately now in an assisted living home. Well, her entire family is down here in quarantine, and that just makes me so sad. But she looked at me in May of 2011 and said, "I think you've outgrown the island. I think you need to move to New York City."
Really?
That was the first big opinion she had ever given me in my life. Huh. It was always the men of that family. The men of that family are literal titans of industry. Yeah. They are literally the best ever at what they do. So they've always been very opinionated.
Uh-huh.
And she spoke up and said, it's time. And so I spent
And how did you respond to that?
I said, yes, ma'am.
Really?
That was it. Yeah. I'm pretty easy to sway sometimes. I like taking chances and I like taking risks. So over the course of that summer, I tidied up my affairs and moved to New York City on Thursday, August 31st, 2011, with no job, no college degree, one suitcase, $8,000 in my pocket, living on my buddy's couch in Brooklyn.
So Arc Innovations was
done.
Done.
We had one too many Ponzi schemes that we fell prey to, and we were done.
Got it. Okay, so you had $8,000 in your pocket, and you're sleeping on your buddy's couch in Brooklyn.
And make it up to New York City. I call up my dad first thing I get there, and maybe like a week after I got there, and I said, I think I want to be an actor. And he's like, okay, whatever. I mean, I can't give you any advice there, but I could probably connect you to some people who you could ask questions of. He connected me to this old actor guy, Tony Lobianco.
Oh,
yeah, great actor.
Yeah.
But he was just he was of the age that he was kind of retired and he was just hanging out. So he let me come over to his house to ask him questions about the business. And I went over with all these questions prepared. And I mean, I wish I still had the yellow piece of paper. I wrote on every corner of that piece of paper. And I arrived to his massive home on the Upper West Side overlooking all of Central Park. And I said, oh my God, this is it. This is what I'm going to be. And we got there, cracked open a bottle of wine, started talking about my tattoos. And then he started having me talk to a rock. He said, if you want to learn about the business, first you got to learn to ask good questions. So he gave me a fossil and he told me to ask questions of this fossil for a long time. Well, anyways, like 8 hours went by or 5 hours or whatever. I missed 8 calls from my dad. We went through 2 bottles of wine, tons of pasta. And at the end, he said, look, what are you doing next week? You want to come back and hang out? I'll pay a couple bucks and I'll give you a few tasks and we'll, figure some stuff out. He was single, he was retired, and I was this fresh face.
I have to insert a couple of questions here. One is, so you were drinking wine, so you weren't completely in recovery.
No. I had started drinking like right when I got back to Hilton Head.
Okay.
A couple years prior.
So in
a good way, in a fun way. Yeah, no problem whatsoever.
Okay, so you were able to drink and not lose control. And
because I fell back in love with nature, and that satisfied that urge.
I mean, that's great, because usually you hear someone who says, oh, I can stop anytime I want kind of thing. And usually they can't, but it sounds like you could. Yeah. But I just had to note that. Back up just one step further back. So you're this lovely woman, this grandmother-like figure said, you need to move to New York. Did she tell you why she thought you should move to New York?
She said, you outgrow the island. The city, man, the city's ready for you.
There's such a big difference between going from Hilton Head to New York.
Well, so her son is a man named Mark Messier, who is
that name rings a bell.
A 6-time Stanley Cup champion hockey player. He retired as the second leading all-time point scorer. He's the greatest leader in the history of hockey. He's the greatest leader in the history of New York City sports, him and Derek Jeter. He brought the cup back to New York in 94. So he is a legend, an icon, a messiah in the world of sports, leadership, and specifically New York City. So we used to go up to games, 10 times a year. So New York City wasn't an unfamiliar place.
Right.
And so when his mother, Mary Jean, said, you need to move there, I obviously knew I was moving there with a decent head start and having known the city for a very long time.
Okay. So then you go up there, $8,000 in your pocket, sleep on your friend's couch in Brooklyn. Did you have any notions in your head at all why you were going to New York?
No, just I knew I'd figure it out. I had that much confidence in myself and in my support system that I
Wow.
just figure it out. I mean,
Wow.
at one point, on the day that I went up to go meet with Tony LoBianco,
Yeah.
on the day that I went to go, it was Friday, September 30th, 2000. Friday, September 27th, 2011. On the day that I went to go, before I went up to go see Tony LoBianco, I walked into a Urban Outfitters at 14th Street and 6th Avenue. And I walked in with my resume. I was just doing this all over town. I was calling up. I remember I called up every local small business owner saying, hey, I know how to make videos. Can I make a video for you? I'm a hustler. You give me a room and I'm going to go find an opportunity in it somewhere. That's just what I do.
Okay.
But I walked into the Urban Outfitters. I'll never forget. I walked in with my resume and the person looked at me in the resume and they said, hey, we're actually having onboarding for the new hires. I'm going to confidently say, do you want to join? And I walked in to this room and I remember it was a white room. It's probably 10 foot wide. Yeah, maybe 10 foot wide by 20 feet deep, and it had a whiteboard in it. And there was the trainer was sitting there onboarding all of us for new jobs. I didn't know the salary. I didn't know the position. They just saw that I knew how to hustle. And I had some retail and restaurant experience. So, whatever. But I'm sitting there in a pink polo, khaki shorts, right off the boat from South Carolina, and everybody else is Urban Outfitters. Looks like it.
Yeah.
A person looked in there was a window in the door. I'll never forget it. The door is on the left side of the room.
Yeah.
They looked in through the window, opened up the door, and asked to see me. She gave me my resume and said, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go out and find another job. I swear to God. That was on the way
to Tony's.
I swear to God, that was on the way to Tony's.
That's so funny.
I obviously didn't fit in.
Yeah.
Right. I was wearing a pink polo and everybody looked awesome and cool.
Right.
But she did me a favor and I'll never forget it.
Yeah. I wouldn't never forget that either.
So Tony put me to work. And the first things we did were cleaning out closets, and I'd drive him around to appointments, and I'd drive him to his dates, and I'd drive him to charity galas. And he had this damn phone book, and the phone book had just celebrities, presidents, kings, queens, all these people.
Yeah.
And I had to call every single one of them saying, hey, this is Chris Schembra from Tony LoBianco's. Did Tony pass away? No. I just need your email address. We're getting them set up on email. Can I have your email address? Oh, yeah, sure. So that was 3 months.
Wow. So that was your first job in New York.
That was my first job. And eventually, when I was cleaning out a closet one day at his house, I read this script that I liked. And I knew Tony had done the show back in the 80s. But I really liked the script. So I brought it back in after reading it. And I said, we should do this play again. He said, fine, I'll act in it. You produce it. And I didn't know what that meant. but we said yes. So we picked an opening night, 8 months out. And, rented the theater, got all the creative talent, did the stuff, filled the house. And that was my first foray into theater. So then I was a theater producer. So then Tony and I were together for 5 years. So then we
And that was a
And
show
maybe
he had been in?
it was a show. It was a one-man show about Fiorello LaGuardia, former
Okay.
mayor of New York City,
Yeah.
that he had done, so many years ago. And I thought it was pretty relevant for, what we were going through in the country, the time I was reading it, 2011.
Yeah.
So I said, let's do it. So we spent that entire summer selling tickets, going out to charity galas, auctioning off big bulks of tickets in exchange for, your group to come to Tony LoBianco's house for dinner. Think about that. I'm just seeding that for a later conversation.
All right.
Is so we would go off and we'd auction off a dinner at his home for $12,000, pay it to the charity, come over with 8 of your friends, and you'd have dinner with Tony LoBianco, and all the money went to charity. Oh, and it came with 40 tickets to our play. So we sold all these packages. And so for your listeners, an important lesson in that entire thing was when we read the script and we said we should do something,
Yeah.
the first thing we did was pick a date. That is the answer to every question anybody will ever have to say, where do I begin? Pick a date. Creativity loves constraints.
Begin with the end in mind.
Yep, that's it.
So to speak, right?
You want to quit your job? Pick a date. Oh, by the way, when it was time for me to slowly wind down with Tony and do my next thing, my friend Carrie Hammer literally made me sign a contract saying I would quit my job by December 21st, no matter what it looked like.
Wow.
Well, I did it like 2 weeks earlier, but that was a whole nother thing.
Right.
But
the point of picking a date isn't necessarily that it actually has to be that exact date. The point is that if you don't pick a date, you're not going to build the momentum towards the goal, right?
It gives you a finite thing to sell. And I'm not talking about a big goal. I'm talking about small goals. The great New York Jets quarterback, Chad Pennington, says the only way to achieve big goals and big wins is to celebrate the small goals and small wins.
That's right.
And that momentum will get you there.
That's right.
So Tony and I did theater for a number of years. And had
about 5 years, right?
Yeah, about 5 years. We had a really good time doing it. We put on some good shows. We produced some very viral internet campaigns for veterans. We got over 1 million participants. We rounded up 1 million people to help us out.
Right.
And the campaign ended up reaching over 30 million people. And it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. But so slowly towards the end of that, somewhere along the way, it was July of 2015. So I started in 2011 with Tony.
Yeah.
We had a really good time together. We traveled all over the world, achieved great things, entertaining audiences of all kinds of ages. On the outside, my life looked pretty good. My life looked pretty damn good. But in July of 2015, we had just come back from Italy after producing a Broadway play over there in Rome. And when I got back to New York, I realized this ain't it. This is not it. Rome, and I will always say this about Rome, Rome captured my heart. Rome made me see life in a whole new way. And when I got back to New York, I realized I felt 4 things: lonely, unfulfilled, disconnected, insecure. I thought back to Italy and I said, what did I love most about my time over there? It was the food. So I started playing around with food in my kitchen, accidentally created a pasta sauce recipe, and figured I should probably feed it to people to see if it's even good or not. So on July 15th, 2015, I invited 15 of my friends over to our home and fed them our sauce. 6:30 p.m. cocktails began, 8 p.m. dinner is served, but at 7:47 p.m., now the name of my company, we put the pasta in the pot and delegated 11 specific tasks, empowering the attendees to actually work together to create the meal. This act of working together, playing together, playing with the food, serving each other, removing the ego, sitting down for dinner, and then eating simple pasta sauce.
Yeah.
Made people come alive.
And it made you come alive.
Made me come alive. So eventually, we kept on doing these dinners week after week after week after week. And eventually,
you say we, who's the we?
Community effort.
Oh,
People would bring in friends and do all this. And eventually I met my girlfriend at a dinner. So she started helping out and hanging out. And eventually at 2 a.m. on a Monday in February of 2016, I woke up in my bed, bawling my eyes out, realizing for the first time in my life, I had finally found a little bit of joy. I was starting to rid myself of insecurity. My greatest childhood insecurity is that I'm always the last one called to the party. My invite was always somehow lost in the mail. So my greatest childhood insecurity was pretty much being solved by these dinners. I didn't have to run any longer. The people were coming to me and I could create the safe space. See, I've got all the suicide, the depression, the jail, the rehab. It was all because of my insecurities. And now I was starting to address those. And it was the damn dinners. And then I realized it wasn't because the pasta sauce. It was because the gratitude. At the very first dinner, we asked a simple question. If you could give credit or thanks to one person in your life that you've never given enough credit or thanks to, who would that be? And from those very first dinners, we observed that when you got everybody to work together and play together and serve each other and be kids together, whether you're feeding the biggest CEOs on the planet or 4-year-old kids in Skid Row, when you did that and then you inserted this gratitude question, boy, oh boy, they would reach back into the past and bring forth these amazing stories about their mommy issues, about their third grade teacher, about their dead dog, about the bitch ex-girlfriend, about everything under the sun. And they have this cathartic, transformative release. By our count, if less than 6 people cry, we consider it a failed night. And then in that moment, the rest was history. So once we realized the impact these dinners were having, then we started to realize that, this gratitude enhances well-being. It develops pro-social relationships. It helps people address negative emotions from their past. It helps people relive positive emotions. It helps develop self-confidence, self-esteem. And oh, by the way, it's great for business.
Yeah.
You want to increase customer loyalty. You want to increase referrals. You want to increase retention. You bring your clients to a dinner, let them cry together. They're going to come out and you're going to be able to do anything you want in that relationship, and they're going to be with you forever. Mm-hmm. You know what? 51% of the American workforce reports being lonely on a consistent basis.
Yeah.
That's equivalent of the reduction of lifespan of smoking 15 cigarettes per day, 7 years off your life. If you can solve that for others, especially your clients, they will reward you for the long run, guaranteed. So we were able to build an entire company on the back of those principles.
Wow. Well, you just brought us up to pretty much what you're up to now. So tell us, if people want to learn more about how to reach you and what you're up to, and fill us in on anything else that you think listeners should know about.
I think, for your listeners and from what I know about them, there's a lot of you listening today that are probably saying, what's my next stage? What's my next chapter? How am I going to have that creative idea to have that next breakthrough or cathartic release to maybe do a new career, get a new relationship, etc.? My answer to that is gratitude. Gratitude is a moral motivator, barometer, and reinforcer. And if you take that question that we talked about today and you start off by doing one thing, you sit there and you answer that question. What's one person in life that you don't give enough credit or thanks to? Write down their name. The next thing I want you to do is write down 5 to 7 values that they stand for. And when you do that, you're going to start to realize a lot of the things in your life that you've often overlooked. And you're going to start seeing your life in a whole new different way. And if you start doing that question with a lot of the people in your life, these positive emotions are going to broaden and build your repertoire to be able to be creative and innovative in the future. And if you do that, then your next opportunity is going to present itself, and all you're going to have to do is say yes to it. And sometimes that's 90% of the battle. It's just saying yes. So
there you go.
Tammy, thanks for having me on. This has been great. What a
Chris,
wonderful question asker
what a
you are.
delight. Absolutely delightful. And how can people find you?
You know, ever since we built the company, we serve the biggest companies on the planet: Microsoft, Dell, IBM, American Express, PwC, Lyft. These are all clients of ours, big, in-person clients of ours. And ever since COVID-19, we've pivoted to doing virtual dinners.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, it doesn't cost an arm and a leg to do dinner with us. Now we're able to invite people for free to our virtual experiences.
Yes.
It's been a wonderful little kerfuddle. So if you'd ever like to join a virtual dinner, just email Jasmine at 747club.org and she'll invite you to a dinner as our guest.
Well, I know, because I've been to one. Wonderful. Chris, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
All the information about Chris, his work, his book, everything will be in the show notes.
Perfect.
And this has just been absolutely delightful and delicious. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you for having me, Tammy. I'll see you at the next dinner.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. I hope you enjoyed my interview with Chris Schembra. It was so interesting to speak with him and learn about his professional and personal journey. What is your key takeaway from our interview? If you are interested in any of the resources or links mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them on the blog page of my website at www.tammygoolerloeb.com. Just look for episode 084. Are you thinking about what's next for you in your professional life? Perhaps there was a thought or idea that was sparked by listening to today's podcast that you'd like to put into motion in your life? Not sure where to begin or think about how you might need some support? I am offering a 6-session small group mastermind program for women who want to explore their what's next. You will get the information, inspiration, and support you need to get where you are going next. Cohorts are starting on a rolling basis. By the completion of the group, you will be ready to take on new goals. Are you interested? Check out my free 3 tips and 3 resources to help you navigate your career in a new direction. Go to www.tammygoolerloeb.com/3-tips-and-3-resources, and you'll be able to sign up for those free gifts and get more information about the mastermind program. If you are interested and inspired by this episode with Chris, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Remember, subscribing is always free. Are you enjoying the podcast? I would love to read your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find through my website at www.tammygoolerloeb.com/podcast. Just click on the Apple Podcast button and follow the instructions provided there. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. Let me know how it's going for you. And who knows, maybe you'll be my next interview on this podcast. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com. motivator.com.